The galaxy learned fear again in a single moment. For 3,000 years, no unknown warship had crossed the borders of the Orion Accord without permission. For 3,000 years, every civilization believed the same comforting lie, that nothing truly new could appear anymore. That all dangers were known. That all enemies had been catalogued, studied, and contained. That belief shattered the instant the sensors screamed and the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. The first alert came from a deep space listening array near the edge of mapped territory. At first, it looked like noise. A distortion. A shadow where there should have been nothing. Then the shadow grew. It pushed against reality, bending light, swallowing signals, and forcing every nearby sensor into emergency recalibration. Seconds later, the system classified it as a vessel. That was when panic began. On the orbital capital of the Valorian Union, Commander Reth Valuan stared at the tactical display in disbelief. He had served for 90 years and had never once seen an alert like this. The object was massive, far larger than any ship in known space. It did not arrive through normal faster-than-light corridors. It did not announce itself. It simply appeared, as if the universe had decided to tear open and let something through. "It's wrong," one of his officers whispered. "Its mass, its shape, none of this makes sense." The ship was long and angular, forged like a weapon rather than a vessel. No decorative curves. No glowing symbols of diplomacy. Its surface was dark, not reflective, as if it absorbed the starlight around it. Even before a single weapon powered up, the design alone sent a clear message. This was not built to explore. Across the galaxy, similar scenes unfolded. Trade routes froze. Fleets halted mid-jump. Ancient defense networks woke from centuries of dormancy. Messages flooded every political channel, each one more frantic than the last. What is it? Who built it? Is it attacking? No one had answers. High Counselor Ceri's call of the Orion Accord felt something she had not felt since her youth: dread. She stood within the Grand Chamber, surrounded by representatives of dozens of species, all arguing at once. The chamber had witnessed wars, alliances, betrayals, but never silence like this. Never fear so thick it seemed to press against the walls. "They have not fired," said the strategist from the Trellick Combine. "They have not moved." "That makes it worse," Ceres replied quietly. Long-range scans confirmed the impossible. The ship was alone. No escort. No support fleet. No drones. Just one vessel, waiting. And yet, every military simulation predicted the same outcome. If it attacked, the losses would be catastrophic. Entire defense sectors would fall before reinforcements could even respond. The galaxy's oldest minds searched ancient archives. Forgotten myths. Suppressed records. Half-deleted warnings. One name appeared again and again in corrupted data files, always redacted, always incomplete. Humans. Most dismissed it at first. A dead species. A failed experiment from the outer spiral. A people erased so long ago that even their home system had been stripped from navigational charts. The idea that they could return, alone, unannounced, and with something like this, felt absurd. Until the ship finally spoke. Every communication channel, civilian and military alike, lit up simultaneously. The signal did not overpower systems. It did not force itself through. It requested access, and was instantly granted by frightened operators who did not even realize they were obeying. The image that appeared was simple. A human. She stood calmly against a steel background. No crown. No insignia of empire. Just a uniform worn smooth by time and use. Her hair was streaked with grey. Her eyes were steady in a way that made seasoned admirals look away without understanding why. "My name is Director Ilara Voss," she said. Her voice was clear, controlled, and utterly without anger. "I speak for Earth." That single word sent shockwaves through the chamber. Earth. A planet listed as sterile. A system declared empty. A species officially extinct. Ilara continued, unhurried. 211 years ago, your ancestors decided humanity was too dangerous to exist. They believed we would become a threat. They believed fear justified extermination. Images appeared behind her: burned cities, broken moons, orbital bombardments frozen in time. "You were wrong," she said simply. Across the galaxy, billions watched in silence. "We survived because we had no other choice," Ilara went on. "We rebuilt under poisoned skies. We learned to live in the dark. We turned loss into discipline, pain into knowledge, and hatred into patience." The massive ship outside every viewport powered up, not aggressively, but deliberately. Energy signatures rolled across its surface like controlled storms. Every weapons system remained locked, yet their presence was undeniable. "This ship is called Resolute Dawn," Ilara said. "It is not a threat. It is a reminder." A pause followed. "Not for drama, but for truth. We are not here to destroy the galaxy," she said. "If that were our goal, you would already be gone. We are here because hiding is no longer acceptable. We are here because history cannot stay buried forever." Councillor Ceres felt the weight of those words settle into her bones. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice carrying across the open channel. Ilara looked directly into the camera. "We want acknowledgement," she replied. "We want a place at the table you denied us. And we want you to understand something very clearly." The human leaned forward slightly. "You feared what humanity might become. This is what you made us instead." The transmission ended. The Resolute Dawn remained motionless. No weapons fired. No ultimatums issued. And yet, for the first time in 3,000 years, the galaxy understood a terrible truth. Peace had never been permanent. It had only been waiting for humanity to return. For 12 standard hours after the human transmission ended, no one fired a shot. That alone terrified the galaxy. The Resolute Dawn hung in space like a verdict waiting to be delivered. It did not advance. It did not retreat. It did not chase the frightened patrol craft that quietly pulled back to safer distances. It simply remained, a dark blade against the stars, reminding everyone that humanity had returned, and that it was patient. Inside the Orion Accord chamber, panic gave way to something worse: calculation. High Councillor Ceres' call watched the arguments rise and fall like waves crashing against stone. Some demanded immediate surrender. Others pushed for a preemptive strike, insisting that no single ship, no matter how powerful, could stand against the combined fleets of the galaxy. A few, the oldest among them, said nothing at all. They stared at old memories that had never truly faded. "We cannot allow them to dictate terms," snapped Lord General Threx of the Varn Dominion. His armored form towered over the others, his voice sharp with anger. "They are bluffing. One ship does not equal an empire." Ceres turned slowly toward him. "Are you willing to test that theory with your homeworld?" Silence followed. Military projections flooded the chamber. Every scenario showed the same grim pattern. Even if the galaxy destroyed the Resolute Dawn, the losses would be staggering. Key worlds would burn. Trade networks would collapse. And worse, human data had hinted at more ships. Many more. "What if they are lying?" someone whispered. "What if this is all they have?" That question reached far beyond the chamber. On the bridge of the Resolute Dawn, Director Ilara Voss stood with her hands clasped behind her back. The ship hummed softly around her, a sound she had grown up with. Not this ship exactly, but its ancestors. Humanity had learned to live inside machines after Earth's surface became a memory rather than a home. "Status," she said calmly. "Galactic response remains divided," replied Commander Jonah Reyes, her second-in-command. "No hostile targeting. Multiple fleets repositioning, but none advancing. They're afraid to blink." Ilara nodded. "As expected." Reyes hesitated. Some of them genuinely don't know what happened to us. Their records are fragmented." Ilara's expression did not change. Ignorance doesn't erase responsibility. She turned toward the main display, where faint signals flickered, intercepted communications, emergency council meetings, terrified civilian broadcasts. The galaxy was remembering humanity all at once, and memory was never gentle. "Begin Phase 2, she ordered. Across known space, Sealed archives began to unlock. Humanity had waited 2 centuries for this moment. They had not wasted that time. Every stolen transmission, every fragmented historical record, every half-deleted report had been pieced together and preserved. Humanity had learned something crucial during its near extinction. Truth was a weapon. The data release was surgical. It did not accuse. It did not threaten. It simply showed. Footage of first contact. Human diplomats smiling with hope. Cultural exchanges never completed. Then orbital fire. Colony worlds erased in minutes. Civilian evacuation ships destroyed while transmitting pleas for mercy. The galaxy watched itself commit a crime it had buried. Riots erupted on dozens of worlds within hours. Younger generations demanded answers from leaders who had inherited lies. Old veterans broke down as memories they had suppressed clawed their way back into the light. The myth of eternal peace shattered completely. On a distant agricultural moon, a schoolteacher paused a lesson when the broadcast cut in. Her students watched the burning of Earth in stunned silence. They had been taught that extinction was theoretical. Now it had a face. Back in the Orion Accord chamber, Ceri's call felt her authority slipping through her fingers. "This is destabilizing everything," she said quietly. "They're not attacking us. They're turning us against ourselves." "Yes," replied an elder delegate from a crystalline species. "That is far more dangerous." A secure channel opened without warning. "Counselor Call," Ilara Voss said, her image appearing once more. "We will not wait forever." Ceres straightened. "You are tearing the Accord apart." Ilara met her gaze. "It was already broken. We're just refusing to pretend otherwise." "What do you want us to do?" Ceres asked. "For now." Ilara replied. "Listen, learn, and decide who you want to be when history stops forgiving you." The channel closed. Across the galaxy, fleets remained frozen, not by force, but by fear of making the wrong choice. Humanity had not returned as conquerors. They had returned as witnesses. But even witnesses could become executioners if ignored. On the outer edge of the sector, Admiral Corvesh of the Drakari war clans made his decision. His species believed strength was proven through action, not hesitation. He ordered his fleet forward. "One ship does not rule the stars," he declared. "We will remind them of that." The Drakari armada surged ahead, thousands of warships accelerating toward the resolute dawn. Their weapons charged. Targeting systems locked. On the human bridge, alarms remained silent. "They're advancing," Reyes reported. "Weapons hot." Ilara did not move. "Hold fire." Reyes said carefully. "This is our last chance to deter them." Ilara's voice was steady. "No. This is their last chance to stop." The Drakari fleet crossed the invisible threshold humanity had calculated centuries ago. The moment they did, space itself seemed to change. The resolute dawn responded, not with weapons, but with understanding. A wave of energy rippled outward, not destructive, but precise. Drakari targeting systems went dark. Communications collapsed. Navigation failed. Thousands of ships drifted, blind and helpless, their crews screaming into silence. Not a single vessel was destroyed. The message was unmistakable. Humanity could end them, but chose not to. Across the galaxy, fleets powered down their weapons. In the Accord chamber, Ceres Call closed her eyes. "They're showing mercy," she whispered. "On purpose." "Yes," the elder replied. "And that should frighten us more than any attack." The resolute dawn remained where it was. Humanity had proven its strength. Next, it would test the galaxy's courage. The galaxy did not sleep. Across thousands of worlds, beings stared at their skies, at their screens, at histories they had never been meant to see. The human ship still waited in silence, and that silence pressed harder than any bombardment. Fear was no longer the sharp panic of an unexpected threat. It had matured into something heavier. Guilt. On the flagship of the disabled Drakari fleet, Admiral Corvesh stood alone on his command deck. His warriors, once proud, once fearless, sat quietly at their stations, systems still dark. They were alive only because the humans had allowed it. They could have killed us, Corvesh muttered. Yes, replied his tactical officer. And they chose not to. That truth gnawed at him. Drakari doctrine taught that mercy was weakness. Yet the humans had demonstrated absolute control and restraint. It was not how conquerors behaved. It was how judges behaved. In the Orion Accord chamber, the council reconvened under conditions unlike any before. Armed guards were gone. Defense shields remained offline. No one wanted to appear threatening anymore. High Councillor Seri's call addressed the assembly with a voice that carried exhaustion and resolve in equal measure. The galaxy stands at a crossroads, she said. For centuries, we believed peace meant silence, erasing what frightened us. Today, that lie has returned to stand before us. No one interrupted. The humans are not demanding tribute, she continued. They are not conquering worlds. They are asking us to acknowledge the truth and accept the consequences. A representative from a minor trade species rose hesitantly. If we accept them, what stops them from seeking revenge later? Ceres answered honestly. Nothing. Except who they choose to be. The chamber absorbed that in silence. On the resolute dawn, Ilara Voss watched the political turmoil unfold through filtered feeds. Humanity had predicted this phase. When violence failed, when intimidation failed, the galaxy would be forced to confront itself. Public sentiment is shifting, Reyes reported. Civilian populations are demanding negotiations. Some worlds are offering sanctuary rights. Others are calling for formal apologies. Ilara nodded slowly. Good. Let them speak first. Reyes added. There's something else. We're detecting unauthorized activity near one of our deep-range probes. Ilara turned. Explain. A covert alliance, Reyes said. Several species that benefited most from humanity's removal. They're attempting to reactivate old extermination protocols. Ilara's eyes hardened. They learned nothing, she said. Humanity had always known this would happen. Fear clung hardest to those with the most to lose. While the public argued and the councils debated, shadows moved in secret. A message arrived from Earth Command, encrypted, layered, human. Ilara read it once, then closed her eyes. They're going to try to kill hope, Reyes said quietly. Yes, Ilara replied. Which means it's time we stop waiting. She turned toward the bridge crew. Prepare the Dawnfall broadcast. The crew froze for a heartbeat. That will expose everything, Reyes said. Our history. Our rebuild. Our weapons. Our weaknesses. Ilara met his gaze. We survived because we shared knowledge when secrecy failed us. We will not become what they feared by hiding now. Across the galaxy, every screen activated once more. This time, there was no speech. There were stories. Children growing up underground, learning to read by recycled light. Engineers building cities from wreckage. Scientists rewriting human biology so radiation became survivable. Artists painting skies they had never seen. Soldiers training not for conquest, but defense, because extinction had taught them restraint. The galaxy saw humanity not as monsters, but as survivors. Then came the final revelation. Humanity had not rebuilt an empire. They had rebuilt a promise. Earth was no longer a single world. It was a network of habitats, cultures, and philosophies bound by one rule. Never strike first, never forget last. The covert alliance struck anyway. An ancient weapon, buried in forgotten space, activated. Its purpose was simple: collapse local spacetime around the resolute dawn. No battle. No warning. Just erasure. On the human bridge, alarms finally sounded. Weapon detected, Reyes said. They're trying to delete us. Ilara smiled faintly. They're still thinking in endings, she said. We learned to think in continuations. She raised her hand. Deploy the archive. Space twisted as humanity's true masterpiece activated. Not a weapon. A record. A distributed memory lattice seeded across the galaxy long before the Resolute Dawn arrived. Even as space-time collapsed, the human presence did not vanish. It multiplied. Human data, human history, human proof flooded every network. The weapon failed, not because it lacked power, but because it could no longer define a single target. Humanity was no longer a place. It was an idea. The Resolute Dawn emerged intact. The covert alliance exposed itself completely. Across the galaxy, outrage exploded. They tried to silence them again, Ceres' call whispered. After everything. Fleet commanders defected. Defense systems turned inward. The conspirators were isolated, not by force, but by the unified will of a galaxy that had finally seen the truth. Ilara addressed the Accord one last time. "We did not come back for revenge," she said. "We came back to make sure this never happens again, to anyone." She looked tired now. Human. Real. The choice is yours. Walk with us into something better, or stand alone in the past. The transmission ended. For the first time in recorded history, the Orion Accord voted unanimously. Humanity would return, not as a threat, but as a founding voice. And the galaxy understood at last. Fear had created humanity's strength. Choice would define what it became next. The vote changed everything. Across the galaxy, the unanimous decision of the Orion Accord echoed like a shockwave. Humanity was no longer an outsider, no longer a rumor or a buried crime. It was recognized. A founding voice. An equal. For many worlds, this was a moment of relief. For others, it was the beginning of fear. On heavily fortified core worlds, ancient ruling families watched the decision in silence. These were the powers that had ordered Earth erased. The ones who had benefited from humanity's disappearance. They had survived for centuries by controlling history itself. And now, history was turning against them. They would not surrender quietly. On the bridge of the Resolute Dawn, Ilara Voss felt the shift before the data confirmed it. The galaxy was no longer holding its breath. It was moving. Multiple fleet mobilizations, Reyes reported. Not defensive. Coordinated. Hidden routes. Ilara nodded. They're afraid of what comes next. Humanity had learned something vital during its long recovery. When systems built on fear begin to crack, those at the top do not seek peace. They seek control. The first attack did not target the Resolute Dawn. It targeted truth. Information hubs across neutral systems were hit simultaneously. Archive stations burned. Historical data cores vanished. Attempts were made to erase the newly revealed records of humanity's survival and suffering. The old powers hoped that if they destroyed the evidence fast enough, doubt would return. They underestimated how deeply the truth had already spread. On a distant medical world, a young alien doctor refused orders to shut down human archives. On a mining colony, workers blocked security forces from destroying data relays. On dozens of planets, ordinary citizens stood between history and those who wanted it buried again. For the first time, humanity was not standing alone. In the Accord chamber, Ceres' call addressed the Council under emergency session protocols. "The attacks are not random," she said. "They are defensive. The old powers believe they can still win if they control the narrative." "And if they cannot?" asked a delegate. Ceres did not hesitate. "Then they will use force." As if summoned by her words, the chamber lights dimmed. A priority alert spread across every display. Unauthorized fleet movement detected. Massive scale. The old empires had revealed themselves. Thousands of warships emerged from hidden shipyards and sealed jump corridors. Fleets older than some civilizations. Weapons powered by technologies no longer understood even by those who wielded them. This was not a policing action. It was an attempt to reset the galaxy by fire. On the Resolute Dawn, the crew prepared in silence. No speeches. No panic. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. Estimated time to contact. Ilara asked. 6 minutes, Reyes replied. They're not hiding anymore. Ilara looked out at the stars. Then neither will we. She opened a channel, this time not to the Council, but to the galaxy itself. This is Director Ilara Voss of Earth, she said. To every world listening, you are about to see why humanity was feared. She paused. And why we chose to be better. The human response was not a single fleet. It was many. From forgotten regions of space, from habitats never mapped by the old powers, human vessels emerged. Not massive like the Resolute Dawn, but fast, modular, adaptive. Ships designed not for domination, but for coordination. The galaxy realized the truth too late. Humanity had not built one terrifying ship. They had built a system. As the old empires advanced, their formations began to break apart, not under attack, but under pressure. Human vessels moved like living things, anticipating reactions, cutting supply lines, isolating command ships. No planet was bombarded. No civilian structure touched. Every strike was precise. Every message was clear. Surrender, or be removed from power. On the flagship of one ancient empire, its ruler watched his fleet collapse into confusion. They're not fighting us, he snarled. They're dismantling us. Yes. That was exactly what humanity was doing. Within hours, the galaxy's oldest war machines were powerless, not destroyed, but neutralized. Command codes overridden. Energy systems drained. Entire fleets left drifting, intact but harmless. The message spread faster than light. The age of unchecked power was over. Back on the Accord, Ceri's call felt something close to awe. They could have conquered everything, she whispered. Why didn't they? Morinth, the ancient historian, answered quietly. Because they remember what it feels like to lose everything. The final blow was not military. It was legal. Humanity presented evidence, names, orders, timelines. The individuals responsible for Earth's destruction were long dead, but their institutions were not. The accords they had violated. The laws they had rewritten in secret. One by one, ancient ruling councils were dissolved by their own populations. Leaders arrested. Power structures dismantled from within. No executions. No purges. Only accountability. On the Resolute Dawn, Ilara watched the updates flow in. Systems stabilizing. Fleets standing down. Worlds voting for reform. Reyes said softly. The galaxy is changing. Ilara allowed herself a tired smile. Good. That means the past is finally losing. She turned away from the viewport. There's one thing left to do. Reyes understood immediately. Go home. Yes, Ilara said. Not just us. All of us. For the first time in centuries, Earth would no longer be hidden. Humanity would no longer live in the shadow of fear. The galaxy had frozen in terror when Earth's battleship appeared. Now it would have to learn how to live with hope. The stars above Earth had not been this crowded in centuries. From orbit, the planet no longer looked like the wounded world recorded in ancient alien archives. The scars were still there, vast regions preserved as memorial zones, glass plains left untouched as reminders, but life had returned. Green spread across continents once burned. Oceans shimmered with floating cities. Orbital rings and habitats formed a protective halo, not of weapons, but of connection. For the first time since the burning, Earth was not alone in the sky. Ships from across the galaxy arrived slowly, carefully, keeping respectful distance. No armadas. No war formations. Just envoys, observers, historians, and civilians who wanted to see the world that had survived extermination and returned stronger. On the surface, billions of humans watched the skies. Children pointed upward. Elders wept openly. Entire generations had lived and died believing that the galaxy beyond Earth feared them or had forgotten them. Now, both truths stood exposed, and transformed. Director Ilara Voss stood on a balcony overlooking what had once been the ruins of an ancient city. Now it was a living capital, built around the remains rather than over them. Humanity had learned not to erase its pain. Commander Reyes approached quietly. They are ready, he said. The Accord delegation has landed. Ilara nodded. So are we. The gathering was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. There were no thrones. No raised platforms. Humans and aliens stood on the same level, under open sky. The air carried a mix of languages, atmospheres carefully balanced so all could breathe comfortably. High Counselor Ceres Call stepped forward. She looked smaller here, beneath Earth's sky, but also more honest. We come, she said, not as rulers or judges, but as witnesses. Ilara listened without interrupting. For centuries, Ceres continued, the galaxy believed peace meant control. That fear justified silence. Humanity proved us wrong. You survived what should have ended you. And when you returned, you chose restraint over revenge. She bowed her head. On behalf of the Orion Accord and the civilizations it represents, we acknowledge our crime. We acknowledge your suffering. And we acknowledge your right to stand among us, not as what we feared, but as what you are. The words echoed across the plaza. Ilara stepped forward. Humanity does not ask for forgiveness today, she said calmly. Forgiveness is personal. It cannot be voted on. It must be earned, over time. She looked around, at humans, at aliens, at the shared future waiting uncertainly between them. We ask for something simpler, she continued. Truth. Accountability. And a future where no species is erased because it scares someone with power. She gestured behind her. Earth is open. Not as a prize. Not as a warning. But as proof. The galaxy saw it then, not a fortress, not a superweapon, but a civilization rebuilt around one idea. Survival with purpose. In the months that followed, the changes spread faster than anyone predicted. Human engineers helped stabilize aging alien infrastructures. Alien scientists shared technologies once hoarded by elites. Trade routes reopened, not under threat, but under trust. Old doctrines of secrecy collapsed as transparency became the new currency of power. Humanity did not dominate. It connected. The Resolute Dawn was retired from its vigil position and placed in high orbit above Earth, not as a weapon, but as a monument. Its hull still bore the names. Millions of them. A reminder visible to anyone who approached. On a quiet evening, Ilara stood once more on the balcony. Earth's moon rose slowly, pale and familiar. For the first time in her life, she felt something unfamiliar settle in her chest. Peace. Not the fragile kind built on fear. The earned kind. Reyes joined her. Do you think they'll ever truly understand us? He asked. Ilara smiled faintly. They don't have to, she replied. They just have to remember what happens when they try to erase someone. Above them, ships from 100 species drifted peacefully, their lights reflecting off Earth's atmosphere like stars learning new patterns. Humanity had come home. Not to rule the galaxy, but to make sure it never forgot the cost of silence again. And somewhere, deep in the vastness of space, fear finally loosened its grip, replaced by something far more powerful. Respect.